Come and shoot the breeze with myself and guests as we deep dive into some topics that may just pin your eyelids right back. First of all, thank you so much for coming into this call and sharing space and time with me in this chat, because I am really noticing that I think because where we're up to, I can go into a lot of story around why I think it might be this way or that way or whatever, there's always a lot of story. And for me, I just feel that what I've really been noticing is the actual spaces everyone's taking up in their role. And it's really come to the fore. And a lot of the light wavers have heart wavers for me, have really sort of stepped aside. A lot of them have got overwhelmed with life over time. And so many have actually stepped out of their role. And so for me, there was a noticing of who was still playing in there, who was still growing and moving in this beautifulness that we're all in. And so seeing the actual assignments that we've all taken on and how everyone in their own way and time over time has just been fulfilling that, and it's been just beautiful to witness. And that was why this all came about, because I'm a pioneer. I've been one of the first wavers. And I know we have bridges, the way that I sort of see it is we have these 3 circles and 2 of them are overlapping the middle one, so it's like there might be a throw into yourself being a second waver, but you might feel a lot of the pioneer stuff. You could be second waver feeling a lot of the third wave stuff. So there's some bridges, and there's 2 bridging in here that I know of. And so that again will be a bit of your conversation to bring in. But for me, when we came into the pioneer one, when I really looked at myself in that role over time, I could say that what Dolores Cannon had brought up, which she found, and I know a lot of you know about Dolores, but she discovered that these were 3 roles, 3 waves of souls. My words today, I have to be paying attention or I get all tongue-tied. So the 3 waves of volunteers that came in, and she discovered this through taking clients through very deep hypnosis. So it was a beautiful discovery, and it was actually, for me, I feel that this is actually one of those things that are quite true. So in the Pioneer chat, I was saying about how we've been on the front line. We came in at a very dense time. For me, being very aware, awake, clairvoyant medium, all the senses on, nobody else around me was, and I had nobody to guide me through all my years, and I really had to trust in what energy I was feeling, which was a lot of dark entity around me that I felt very hunted. And then there was no one to sort of speak to about any of all of that, right? Plus many other things. But so in that role, over time, understanding where I had come in, being one of the first wavers, there was this a tiredness. We've come to a point, us older ones, that we're just really exhausted from life holding that space. So we've been, like, I put it like we've been the front liners, and if you imagine a battle going on, we're the ones that come in and we're on the front line. And what I see is you guys who are the bright shinies who have come in now, you're like the cavalry that have come in, and I'm going, oh my God, we've got help now. We got help. And of course, it's been for a while, but it's that feel. And so now there's this, because, us older pioneers, we've been like, are we retiring now? Is that what we're here to do now? We come in to but to have this help and assistance. And there was a definite no, we're not retiring. Your place is still here. And there's an important part to that still, which I can see now. And so with that, when you guys all came in, it took a while for us to get to the point where we could, and I feel this is where we're up to right now for us pioneers, is that we can let go the holding. It makes me emotional. We can let go the holding because we've been holding for so long and we're absolutely so exhausted. And I've been through the exhaustion. Now I'm in the gung-ho. I'm like, come on, bring it on now. I'm here. Part one's done. We're in part two. And I just cannot wait. Like when I birthed in, my mum woke up, my head was out, and she watched me birth myself because I was just so gung ho. And I get impatient waiting. So I'm that girl. And I'm back in that energy again. Come through the exhaustion. I've allowed the letting go and the holding. And it isn't allowing, it's a realizing that actually I don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to do this anymore. That there's others here now that are holding us as well. And it's a really beautiful feel. So I thank you so much for all that you guys here have done in your role being the second wavers and bringing through the cavalry. You are our cavalry that have come in to assist, and I really thank you for that. So in her description here, I'm just going to go over what Dolores Cannon brought up around the second waves. Okay. So, according to Dolores Cannon, the second wave of volunteers, or wave of volunteers, arrived after the pioneers. If the first wave were the trailblazers clearing a path through unfamiliar terrain, the second wave were the amplifiers and stabilisers of the new frequency being anchored on Earth. So you're the frequency holders. Second wavers are often described as souls who came not necessarily to lead from the front, but to hold, transmit, and stabilize a higher vibration within the collective consciousness. And that's so what I see you doing. Many do not feel driven to become public teachers, speakers, or leaders. Instead, their influence is often subtle yet profound. So, naturally calm and grounded, tend to carry a peaceful presence, offer. See, we didn't. We did not. We were the major rebels. We were here to balk against all the authority. We came in to really stand our ground in changing the tradition of how ancestral played out over time in life. And so we had to move things, and you guys have come in, and now you're able to hold that structure and that frequency, which is really beautiful. So often feel calmer, safer, or more balanced around them. They may not understand why people are drawn to them. They're the quiet influences, often work behind the scenes rather than seeking the spotlight, which you guys all work in the spotlight as such, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and you are leading in your own way, which is awesome, and power houses. You're sensitive yet more adapted to Earth. We found it really, like even as much as we've been on this planet and Earth for very many lifetimes, there's a deep connection to that. But for me, I definitely am a star walker for sure as well. So there's a lot of grounding that we really needed to keep majorly making sure that we were, and I'm sure you're the same. Feeling invisible is a thing. Absorbing energy is another thing. Their gifts are compassion, patience, emotional intelligence. So see that with you guys. Natural healing, like we were the ones that dived so deeply into wounding that we were just almost annihilated in it. Whereas you guys tend to have more, emotional intelligence for me. There's more of an awareness around all of that. Natural healing energy, harmonizing presence, deep listening abilities, and quiet wisdom. So your role in Dolores Cannon's framework, the second wave, helped expand the energetic foundation established by the first wave. Where the pioneers opened the doorway, the second wave helped strengthen and stabilize the bridge between the old consciousness and the emerging one. All good? Can you feel that for yourselves? I know there'll be bits and pieces in it. Yeah, cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get you one by one to just open up and express for you what this has felt like for you, what it's been for you over your life. Like as in, even in respect to maybe how your families were, were you like mine weren't? They were not on board. So anyway, who would like to go first? Who's got something right there, right now? Johnny, come on in.
I can go if you want, Manny.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the first thing that pops up is being in a Access Consciousness seminar when Gary Douglas says, have you always felt like you landed in the wrong planet at the wrong family? And I'd never heard that before. And it was like, oh, you know, in the back, there was that sense of difference. Yeah. And then I loved what you shared about the bridge, because, yeah, definitely the bridge between the old and the new. And even so much that there was the 27-year gap between my parents. My mum was 1920 when she had me, and my father was 47. So that gave me even, I was even aware of this growing up, that it gave me insight into, the first waivers, you could say, post-war, from some of the behaviors of my father, like who was still in that mentality of post-war, around just simplicity around food, rations, and, just some of those things of people who remember not having very much. And then the contrast to that with my mum. So that gave me an incredible groundwork between the feminine and the masculine. So my father represented the very patriarchal timeline, if you like. And then my mother represented the awakened but ungrounded. And that came about through postnatal depression, in and out of psychiatric hospital, electric shock treatment. So she was activated in those upper chakras and seeing into other realms, but she was filtering it through Catholicism and the God figure and the devil figure. And so that was my childhood, and I was like more the mother. So a lot of stuff has been really, back to front in many ways, but it also gave my consciousness the perfect grounding, if you like, in what we've lived as a humanity through the forgetfulness, through the fall, from the fall of Atlantis, really, I'm realizing lately, into the duality and how that was, created, and this three waves then being the return, the turnabout, and of course you can go back even further and further to, the witch hunts, and even see that as an awakening as well, from the extreme of duality and opposition. So yeah, so in terms of the three waves, I remember reading that book, Three Waves of Volunteers by Dolores, and I just had so many goosebumps and so much resonance with it, because it really did finally explain or reflect back to me the sense of being the observer. Because even as a kid growing up in my family, I was like, I know it doesn't have to be this way. This is just like cuckoo. And it was like, and I remember, like, even to the extent of like making a promise in my heart that when I grow up and my siblings, we're just not going to do it this way. It's just got to be. And nobody said that to me. Nobody told me that. I had no role models of that, but something in me consistently guided me, even to the extent of, as you said, the darkness, and being in that distortion, so much distortion and heaviness and overlays and unspoken, unhealed trauma generationally, and toxicity between the masculine feminine balance. But I remember once I was kind of getting lost in the narrative a bit, the ego, the narrative of the victimization of my circumstance. And in that moment, an awareness just came in, and it just said, everyone has their story. Life is an experience. So I always had these little tweaks to not get entangled and to, have some sense of the forward motion. The other thing which was interesting was I had a lot of gaps in my childhood because I ended up being in a children's home between 3 and 6, and I had next to little memories, but very little memory. And what I realized, and again as a second waver, is that, you know, the brilliance of what we're all part of is, and the orchestration of my soul was, because the first wavers, as you said, Mandy, you came in at such a high frequency. You came here to really reflect the distortion, and it was a hard pathway, not to take it on then as well as those empaths and reflective mirrors of the external. What I recognized is in my own pathway is that even though I had awarenesses grown up, like there was conscious awareness there, but there was also the forgetfulness because it would have been too much. And I remember reading in the 3 Waves of Volunteers, Dolores, she talked about that the second wavers didn't come in at such a high frequency as the first wavers because it was so intense that, okay, how do we bridge it? So coming in not at such a high frequency, but then if I look back, a beautiful thing and a luxury, can see how there was activations along the way to reawaken, you know, when it was time. And going by what you said about emotional maturity, when I had the capacity to be with the distortion within me, to heal it without perpetuating that storyline or that narrative and getting lost in it. So there was definitely, like, if I look back, there was like this incredible sequencing, and expansion and activation, and then to be able to really feel into completion those emotional frequencies, to integrate and then to embody, because disassociation was a big part of my childhood as well, and to really anchor and to anchor in those lower chakras. So it's like the ascension energy is like activating those lower chakras to remember the higher consciousness, which is beautiful, and the light body and so forth. And then as we do, you know, that could be, you could say that's the extreme of disassociation, is being in the conscious realm, not in the body. And then to bring that disassociated or conscious and to bridge that back into the body, which I feel like we're doing now in such a quickening way, as we're all so much more aware of the embodied piece in this, that it's not ascending out of the body, it's actually bringing that ascension here and embodying those light codes.
So, Mary Jo, can I just ask, when were you aware, when did you become aware maybe of yourself being a second waver? Like, when did you sort of put together your role here, if ever? Well, I know you have now.
In Dolores' book, because, you know, I trained with Dolores, and then after that I ended up reading all her books. And when I read the 3 Waves of Volunteers, I mean, I'm sure there was other things, but that was definitely...
Were you very young then, though, or was that later in life as such? That's sort of where I'm trying to gauge. Did you live that awareness as a younger person, is what I'm...
I mean, I probably wouldn't have put it into the perspective of 3 Waves of Volunteers, but I would have put it into feeling like an observer and always observing and just going against the grain. There's got to be a different way to do this life. So I guess, like, from a young age, there was a sense of, there's got to be another way than suffering.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way out of hell.
Absolutely. One of the other major things that I see or was spoken about being in the second wave too was that quite a lot of them would choose not to have children because they realised that their role was here to come in, to play that role out, holding frequency and not having to do much else other than that, say. And that if we would have children, that would create more karma, and then I would have to come back in. And there was this real awareness within them that they actually didn't really want to have children and do that role. So, beautiful. Thanks, Mary Jo.
You're welcome.
Johnny, can we flick to you? Is that cool? You ready?
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Jo. That really landed well with me and kind of opened up a few things. So, for myself, if I could put it into some contextual understanding, is that I kind of came in with a sense of awareness that I believed everybody else had. And life circumstances happened to show me that not everybody had the same level of awareness. When I reflect back now with the little bit of awareness that I have, uh, I see that, and many people, and I'm sure there's many people here, speak of this time that we're in. And I'm so excited. And that this is the time that a lot of us came for to be part of it. And shit, yeah, sometimes it's really challenging, difficult, and messy, and all of that. And sometimes I want to jump in and knock heads together. But then there's this other part of me that just allows the great mystery to unfold. And that is where I really resonate with what you're speaking of, or what I believe you're speaking of with the second wave. Is I feel I've come in at the tail end of the pioneers, so there is that crossover, and my mum was very much a pioneer. And I've just got so much respect for you because shit, that was a hard place to land in. And I believe it was at this time where they speak of, the end of one era, Piscean, and coming into the Aquarian. So we had recently, as Mary Jo pointed out, we had had not just one war, but we had had a few, um, two big, huge wars and a depression, which created a distortion, or I believe a distortion in the psychological, emotional, and the metaphysical frequency of humanity. And so I believe that's what Dolores was speaking of, was um, beings coming in. So, as is spoken, not so much we can interfere from outside, but by arriving in the story, arriving in humanity, and having that experience, gave us a perspective of a lived experience. And so, for myself, yes, I came at that time where there was a lot of that um, wounded. And as Mary Jo, you spoke of having a father, I had a father who was in the Navy and a stepfather in the SAS. So, man, I had a double whammy of that wounded warrior. Well, I wouldn't even call it warrior, but soldier, carrying all this trauma. And not only the woman, the men, but the women as well, who had to stand up during those times. So much respects and much gratitude for all of those beings that come forward in a pretty wow challenging situation. So I'm grateful for that because then that allowed not only for me to come in, but the groundwork was laid already. And it was like these beings had come in, the pioneers, and anchored in the energy, which allowed us, whether you call us the cavalry or the next wave in that, to come in and have some of the freedoms, to have the freedom to express these things. And I started expressing them, but in my early years, a lot of that was shut down. And it was shut down through violence, through the upbringing. So it wasn't until later years where it started to become the norm and not weird. Um, so my first foray was in through the spiritualist church that my mum was in, and having people outside placarding devil worshippers and all this. And now, there's many people that I interact with who hold circles and Wiccan, and it's become normality again. So, thank you, Mandy, and all those beautiful souls that I watched on there that have paved the way. So for me, that's the contextual understanding is the mission itself. And so I understand that where I landed at the end actually helped to shape it by experiencing those kind of wounded energies. I realized that that's not what I would want for my own children. And yep, I was one that did have children, and now I'm up to 10 grandchildren and just absolutely loving it. I love life. I love being part of this. And sometimes shit, yeah, it's really challenging, but whew, that's what I speak for myself, that's what I came for. So um, yeah, the paving of the way. And then I felt the third wave coming in, and it was like, yes, I want to be part of that. So I was kind of bridging into that as well and wanting to be the one breaking down the old systems. Um, and now I find myself coming back to a place of, rather than saying it's wrong, it's changing. It's all changing and shifting. And for me, what serves me is showing up as me, whatever that means. And in that letting go of trying to shift, break things, and allow things to be as they are, and just to hold me, my frequency as who I am. And without doing that, it's being that, embodying it, without trying, and this is where the dichotomy comes in, without doing embodiment and all of that, because they can be catchphrases, but actually showing up in that without the intention. And I see it, and people speak to me of that, thank you for being here, just your grounded energy, or when I show up at festivals or workshops and that, I don't go there to share anything, but there is what people speak of, and young people have come there and felt, hey, thank you. It's like having our parents or our grandparents here. I feel safe. So it's embodying, as the pioneers allowed me to do, or broke up that really stuck energy, all of that trauma and that, or started breaking it up, for us to start shining that light, that wave of love into the field. And I'm watching with bated breath, as Rob said, the IT and technology. I'm embracing that and seeing where we're going, because I've got no idea or perspective, but it's like, watch this space. So yeah, I'm just feeling a lot of love, a lot of gratitude, a lot of joy. And yes, sometimes the shit gets real and it's painful. I'm not bypassing that. But that's when I really drop down deep into that anchor, which the pioneers have helped there, and us as, if we call ourselves that second wave, the cavalry has arrived, and shoring that up and changing the frequencies, and becoming the light, becoming the beacon that others are starting to feel and sense. Yeah, it doesn't need to be this way. And it's okay if people choose that way, but starting to feel, wow, there
Yeah.
is a way of showing up, a way of being that, it lights me up anyway.
Mm.
So thank you for allowing me
Beautiful, Johnny.
space. Thank you.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much. That's something that has always been very much present with you, for me, is your groundedness and this beautiful. I've said it to you many times. It's like you envelop and you hold and you cocoon, and I've felt that many times from you, and I really appreciated it, because it was just so welcome. Yeah. Thank you, Johnny. Mm.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Who would like to maybe pop in next? What about you, Melly?
Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, so interesting listening to this. I've got some crossover as well with Mary Jo, my mother was brought up in Catholicism, very, like Irish Catholic, Irish, Scottish heritage, and I believe that my mum had, and my gran, because you see these things go on family lines, had the gift and the sight and things, and they were working with that through the lens of religion, and a lot of mental health problems. My gran was in and out of psychiatric units and electric shock therapy and all these sorts of things, so a lot of crossover there, and in fact was admitted to a psychiatric unit when she was 7 months pregnant with my mum. And so there's a likelihood my mother was born in an institution, so what better way to kind of cull these energies than to have them move through these institutions. And I've seen that a lot, with the people that I work with, where they have been in and out of institutions as these kind of troubled souls, because the world was not yet ready for the presentation of their gifts. And so we're very fortunate that we are in this time where we're not going to be burned and we're not going to be persecuted, but we're still carrying that persecution wound within us very deeply, and that's a lot to work through. But what I've seen myself is just the enormous amount of karmic clearing that's happening in this era. So just huge amounts, and it's happening like fast, it's moving fast. And so instead of, all this, even 10 years ago, everything was much harder, everything was, even when I was sort of first coming into all of this in my 20s, there was really, you had to do I was meditating for an hour and a half every day, it was, and really getting into Buddhism and all of this sort of thing to try and get myself into these states of deep trance and things, and before I even knew what any of it was, where I was sort of taken flying around the world and shown lots of things, and so that was, like you said, Mandy, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anyone that could explain what was, going on with me. And so everything has just been trial and error, and a lot of error, and then a lot of learning, and a lot of mistakes and all of that. And now it's kind of like, now you just close your eyes and it's like, whoa, off I go kind of thing. And everything is just so much faster in this energy, and so much heavier but lighter. Like Johnny was saying, you've got that heaviness, but there's just so much light, and it's so exciting, and it's happening so fast. So also, when I was a kid, the one thing that stands out to me throughout my childhood is I just thought I was born in the wrong family. And I used to say to my mum all the time, are you sure I'm your child? Are you sure? And I remember these conversations with her. I remember saying, the babies, like, you didn't have the babies next to you. Like, are you sure you took the right one home? Like, I just could not believe that was my family. Like, and I love my siblings so much, but I was just so confused. I absolutely was certain that I'd been swapped at birth and that I had gone home with the wrong mother, and I would tell her that all the time. So I had this really crazy sort of just thing throughout my childhood where I was constantly questioning my mother. Yes, but, did you go in and check? Are you sure that, they, like, you would have been really tired? You might not have noticed that they'd swapped. And, it was this kind of theme throughout my childhood. And And so, yeah, very much that sense of, really coming in to this very bizarre sort of world that I felt was completely out of whack, really wrong. I was very tactile. I like touch. I like, I thought very differently. I was very interested in anything about aliens from a very young age. I was very interested in, weirdly, the way criminals thought. I really was always inside the head of a criminal, and I went on to do criminology, and all of these sorts of things were just fascinating to me. I really couldn't understand why things were wrong in society, and what was going wrong, and very interested in how to make things better. So yeah, all of those things stand out to me in my youth, before I even knew what spirituality was, outside of religion. So yeah, very interesting times to be in. And I did have someone come to me heavily pregnant, and it was very interesting because it was the first time, me personally, it was the first time I had ever seen a new incarnation of a soul without any karmic line. And that was fascinating to me. I was looking for the soul line. I was looking for the history of the baby, and I couldn't see anything. And so I could see it was a completely new karmic thread being birthed. So coming in without all of this weight and without all of this work to do, just ready to come in and be on fire. And I have also seen sort of a lot of new souls that are only earthbound in the last 100 years. For me, the last 100 years are very crucial to the volunteer realms. And so I haven't looked at it necessarily as such in terms of first, second, third wave, because for me, anyone that has come in the last 100 years as a new earth soul is, and there may have been other places, but if you are just coming in the last 100 years, you're really coming here to anchor the light, and you're really coming here just to drop a frequency. And yes, like you say, a lot of them are just working very quietly, land clearing, and very quietly in the healing realms. And I've got people in my groups that are some of the most powerful warriors, and they just sit every day, and the healing that they're doing in meditation is out the gate, but you will never know that. They'll never talk about it, they'll never tell you, but when you know what they're doing, it's incredible work. And I have huge respect for all of those quiet healers that are working, doing all of this amazing work to bring the planet into alignment, that people just don't realize are out there, because it's a very thankless job, and it is long hard work for them, but the call is just so powerful that that's what they do. And it's amazing.
It's beautiful, Melly. Thanks for that share. It's gorgeous. And the for me in the pioneering, it was that I so didn't feel like I was home, and I'd be in my rant, finger up, going, beam me up, Scotty, because I just didn't feel like I fitted. And it wasn't so much with my family, it was with society, with the way that this all played out here. It just didn't feel right for me. And it's interesting, I birthed, like myself, pioneer, obviously, and literally birthed myself. But then I had my daughter, who's a second waver. 17 years later, I had my second daughter, so she's the third waver. And I just sort of clicked to that the other day, even though I knew that it went dropped. And now I've got my grandchildren coming in, that are obviously these new kids on the block as well. But talking with clients who are expecting babies or putting out the call for, and connecting into the energy consciousness of the new children coming in. They're certainly not here for the ancestral line. There's definitely not. And what I am loving is witnessing to the upgraded bodies. I was saying on our Pioneer one, we came in with like the old Fords, and it's parts are getting hard to find now, and the old Warrant we might just scrape through. But you guys are, I call you the bright shinies, have all come in with the new Teslas, and they're upgrading all the time. And I'm loving that. And these new children that are coming in are just in really upgraded form. And I love that. They don't have that density that they're born into in the cell like we did. So yeah, it's very cool. It's very, very cool. When now we all know what we're doing and what's going on, it's like we can see the absolute divinity in it and the gorgeousness, and I love it too. So thank you so much for that share.
I would just add, Mandy, actually, that some of what we're bringing in does depend on what your history is, what your planet is, because
Yes.
you might have been to multiple planets and be, like the old comfortable sofa, Ford, whatever. But some people that I've seen coming in have come from places where they have never ever experienced the density of this planet.
Yes.
And those are the ones that are struggling the most. Those are the ones we're losing hand over fist. And they are the ones that are deeply, deeply confused about the planet. So they are little light beings. They've come from places where they've only experienced love. They've only experienced care. And then they've come here, and they're often born into quite, dense families, and, with this heavy energy. And they struggle to connect with anger. So those souls struggle deeply to connect with these deeper energies of anger. They do have grief, but they have no idea what they're grieving. They often walk through life very aimlessly. They struggle with jobs. They struggle with consistency because they live in a state of deep confusion about why they are here. So I just feel like they deserved a special mention because the struggling souls are really finding this world hard at the moment.
For sure. And in the we learnt that we had our ancestral line, and we all looked at our bloodlines and the geology and the genealogy rather, and all of that. And then we realised that actually we're more of that, even though we knew that. But eventually people realise that there's more to them, and then they start looking at the galactic part, the cosmic part of themselves. Well, these new kids are coming in only about that. They're just about this, these realms, and recognising that this here is a place that they've come into, hold frequency, build the new earth, like the actual architect. So yeah, it's definitely so cool, isn't it, when you see it? I love it. Thanks so much, Millie Rose. That was awesome. And Jen, do you want to chime in?
How's the sound there? Can you hear me okay? Cool. I have to confess, I'm sitting here wearing, can you see? I'm wearing, to be fully transparent and in my true weird Aquarian self, I'm wearing half of a ladybug outfit because I've just been ocean swimming. And that part of me, I'm like, I can't wear the full ladybug. I don't know who's on here. So confessing to half a ladybug today. Oceans of love to everybody here. It's delightful to be in the presence of so many gorgeous people and to be in this discussion. It was the first I heard of these waivers, as you talk about, Mandy, was your last interview that a week ago. I was like, oh yeah. So I often find I'm the last to get the information of confirmation of what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, and I actually don't give a fuck about that. It's that feeling of it's more fun in the art and the act of discovery in the moment. So that's what leads me. Occasionally confirmation drops in later. And that's nice too. It's really cool.
Yeah, so I would say in terms of a little bit of tiny bit of my history, I definitely feel I bridge and span quite a lot. And I'm a radical shaker. I love to shake and break and destroy things. I absolutely adore breaking things. So I'm in the right time because systems are breaking and it's crumble rumble, and I'm like, yes for that. So I remember when I came in, I realized my birth was my near-death experience. And I particularly remember straddling and looking at my body and really choosing, half in, half out, maybe a tiptoe in. And in that moment, I navigated a between realms ladder, pathway, architecture that allowed me for many, many decades to be half in and half out. It's like, I'm okay here, but as long as I've got my exit strategy, that was my thing. And then it was like, damn, Jen, you forgot to remember that you can only play with your witchy magic and your dragony skills if you get all the way back into the body. So then that was that slippery, fast slope spinning sideways into the descending into the density and into the matter. And I tend to be quite extreme. So once I'd done that, I kind of overshot and went a bit too deep into the earth, and was kind of like, holy wow, this is dense, this is deep. And there's a pristine template that this is what I needed. It's like, can I connect to that map, that original, I guess, the blueprint of what is unfolding, the unfolding soul of the world here? It's like, that's what I said yes for. So I feel a lot of my early years was me anchoring what I call the energy of no. My very first word wasn't the cutesy mama, papa. It was no. And it was a no with a lot of hellfire and kind of like, and I still have that. I believe I'm actually here to help people say no. And with that, I landed in a beautiful family with all the dysfunction. If I topped it off, it's like both my parents lived on the surface of the ocean. My dad's an Olympic kayaker, so he just kayaked on the surface of the ocean. And my mum sailed on the surface of the ocean. So there's a lot of surface. And I'm a little bit more like Tefeke. I'm a lot more like the octopus. I'm like, where has not been mapped on this planet, that is where I live. So what interested me was never superficial, it's depth capacity and finding all the ways to live from that place. Horses have been my greatest teacher. I realized in this surface level humanity where I was sitting more in what the unspoken, many humans weren't actually trusting themselves. They didn't know who they were. They weren't even sure why they were here. There was this game, a bit like the Truman Show happening. So I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do the Truman Show. So I went and hung out with horses for decades, and I would share, like, my first language is horse, my second language is human. So I kind of reference everything from nature's perspective and run it through the perspective of congruence in the body, in the breath, in the nervous system. And from that, I sense how safe or the level of mana people actually sit in, the level of congruence people sit in. So that became my benchmark to kind of navigate. And I've been a bodyworker healer for over 30 years now, originally through physiotherapy. So I thought science would help me understand my woo-woo gifts. It shut them down for a long time. I had to kind of crack that open myself. So I do a lot of work bridging the wisdom of nature, the wisdom of horse with humans now, translating from a matrilineal and a matriarchal perspective to give us a whole different lens on like what's happening here. And people often find, they may not have had unconditional love experienced in human form. So animals can help bridge that. The cats, the dogs, the animals, the bird kingdom can allow very hard-hearted people to crack open, I sense. And I love that about the animal kingdom. I feel they're stepping into offering something really profound for us right now. I was one of those weird second wavers that had children, and my God, I did not want to. I thought, oh my God, I cannot be responsible for even how I'm going to show up, because I understand like the responsibility of bringing that through. And I have two incredible teenagers now, 16 and 14-year-olds, and they, what I love about that experience is I've chosen to allow them to be the guide that I never had, allow myself to turn back into their evolutionary spiral and listen, like, what is it they need? And not just talk about it, not just think about it, actually frickin' act. So when these children said, Mom, you sent me to the wrong school, why have you sent me to a muggle school? I should be going to Hogwarts. Like, what are you even thinking? It's like, okay, I really hear you. So I didn't listen to it and do nothing, pulled them out of school. What I didn't realize, there were many in the community, another 40 or so families pulled their kids out of school, looked at me and said, well, what are we going to do now? I'm like, oh shit. So we had a giant drum circle. All the kids went in the middle and they visioned the school, the design, the architecture, what it was their souls needed. So we created that. And for many, many, many years, that has been a new template. And many of the people inside of that space also created nature schools, equine learning schools, all this kind of thing happened. We culminated that last year with an entire trip traveling the world for a year with the children. They led the way. They took us to the pyramids in Egypt. They took us around the Magdalene trails in France. They took us into many of the springs in Glastonbury. We followed ancient trails, following and listening to the children. So that was incredible. And then the adults started saying, well, this is great, but where's our Hogwarts school? Where are the places we can practice the architecture of this new reality? And I just said to them, like, I'll hold this space. One deal. Whatever we learn in that space, you don't leave any part of that in this room, in this space. You take all of that into the world, everywhere you go. Like, start unfolding, unpacking, and liberating these templates through who you are and your body. And that's kind of like how things have been flowing. I work a lot with my husband Dan as well. So Dan and I, his is the pathway of the dog. So he brings in like dog and wolf medicine. I bring in horse. He calls it horse shit. I call his stuff dog shit. And somewhere in that, there's some epic templates for, bringing into balance the fire and water, bringing into balance the masculine and feminine in the density. So, I'm winging it. I'm learning as I go. I love being like courageous and wild. I love trying things that aren't done before. Thank goodness there's so many of you amazing guys like Playmates now. I'm delighted about that. And I really thank you for this time to share a snippet and to be in this beautiful space with all of us. And I just want to say, it's like this group of wavers, our word is our wand. And we are coming to a place where you're beautiful. That first wave, Mandy, was so silenced and your word fell into deaf ears. There was no landing strip. It's like, I feel such a responsibility now with our word being our wand. We are literally creating through our languaging new and vibrant, vital templates. So, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Jen. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I keep saying it to everyone that I'm speaking to whenever in conversation about the waivers or the I hope you don't mind me calling you the bright shinies, but that's who you are. The bright shinies is that you have a new language. Our language is very old, very basic, simple, just that. You guys, honestly, high five, Melissa. But I can say something to Melissa, ask a question, and there's this big, huge round we go right round here with all this beautiful language. And then we come to the point of the answer. And I love that. It's like, I sit there sometimes and I'm like, okay, are we getting there? And that, but it's absolutely a different frequency, definitely carried in your wording. It so is. You are weaving through your words for sure. Absolute. So yeah, thank you for that. Love it. Alrighty. Perhaps Carissa, how would you feel? You're up.
Hi, I was kind of hoping to go last just because I was just really curious about what everyone else was having to share. My experiences have been really different to everyone that has shared so far. I'm definitely a bridge between the second and the third wave. I've never dove into Dolores's work, however, I've been consciously aware of her work for a really long time. And I've listened to a couple of different things, but I've never felt particularly pulled to go deep into it. And so whilst I've known about the waves for a long time, and I would have, I guess, known the truth of being a part of that greater mission, I don't overly identify with any particular one thing because there's so many different aspects of who I am and why I am the way that I am, and this is one aspect of that. And so it's interesting. I had a really different childhood. I grew up in a family that was very solid and grounded, and I didn't have the very typical experience that so many mission souls have as far as their significant catapulting into humanness of the experience through I guess, a greater capital T type of trauma. And my mum was a pioneer for sure, and also I think she's probably a bridge between the first and the second wave, perhaps, very quietly in the background, but I was introduced and encouraged for this type of work from quite a young age. I did my first Reiki course when I was 8. And so I definitely had encouragement of my gifts and of who I am and the power of my soul and what it is that I'm here to do. And yet my life from then typically spent a lot of time in the backgrounds. And even my work, I'm typically in a more of a supporting role, but I can see the greater architecture that I'm weaving within those spaces. And I always find myself in a leadership position, but typically not always the front man or front woman. And so it's interesting hearing everybody else's stories because mine, it feels very unique. And it has always felt unique. I always felt like I always never really understood why I was in the rooms that I was in because everyone else had these stories and experiences, and mine felt really different to that. And so, yeah, the weaving that I'm doing at this time is with technology. It's I have a significant proportion of my DNA comes from nations where the technology here is very old and delayed and slow. And so I offer a way into building the architecture and infrastructure for people's missions. And so I still, even though I'm at the front of my own mission, I'm still supporting others in their missions and being an anchor point for the expression of their missions and of the way in which they can bring that soul aspect into the earth and allow it to be seen and witnessed and met with the greater whole. And I do that through my own mission, which is supporting people at that level. And so, it's interesting to hear everybody's experiences and stories. And it's been really nice to be here. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Carissa. And really, when, hearing you, it's that you definitely bridge the third wave as well, eh? And I can feel that with all of you, actually, and particularly Jen and Mel. in respect to what you're building in the environments you're in respect to how much, you girls are really like amplifying this frequency stuff that you are, definitely, but you're in that third wave of the architect bringing in the new world, like really building it in. So yeah, it's very cool. Thank you so much.
It's really interesting because when I hear about the second waivers, I probably feel slightly more resonance than I do in the third, but my lived experience feels more third. And it's interesting. I can see myself like as a child and even kind of in co-creation in the more, I guess, third dimensional realms of like kind of spending time with people that are not awake and the light that I bring to those spaces, but not by sharing in language. And that's where it feels like there's this real deep resonance with the second. It's like this kind of silent form of anchoring the light in a way where I'm constantly grid working and weaving into these spaces, and I witness people shapeshift in front of me, but not by something that I've necessarily spoken to. And so whilst and when I say that, what I mean is I'm not coming and saying, like, I'm talking about these high dimensional aspects of consciousness, and whilst I do that in some spaces, in these other spaces is where I really resonate with that second wave of the places and communities and connections that I've found myself in and going, oh, these are like not my people. And then at the same time, feeling the anchoring of the architecture that gets woven in just simply through my presence. And then the third wave aspect is where I'm building. It is where I'm in the active phase. And I can feel both of those very, very strongly in my essence. And I was born in 85, and my understanding of the second and third wave is that around that period of time, that middle between 80s and 90s, was where the third wave has started coming through. And I feel like that makes sense. In every aspect of my astrology, my human design, all the different things, I'm always in that middle point, and so it makes sense to be a bridge. And so it's interesting hearing people's stories, because I feel like my experiences, some of my childhood aspects are potentially, I don't know that much about the third wavers, but I feel like that's partially why my story feels different as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. How about Melissa? Are you ready to rock and roll?
See, I was born ready, baby.
You were.
As we all are. Such a pleasure and privilege to be here with each of you. Just really enjoying being able to, what feels like sit in circle, even though we're in different places around the world, and just, share our unique experiences. I really believe that's why we're here, is to just share our unique expression. I like how Carissa articulated I resonate actually more with the first wavers, and yet my lived experience is definitely a second waver. I'm not out front roaring like a lion and leading, with noise. I can be noisy. But also, it was reflected back to me that we are like just the quiet ones in the background being and leading. I love to say my intention is to be the change I wish to see in the world. And for such a long time, I felt different. And I actually embrace that now in later years. It pisses me off if I'm not different. Like if I'm like into this thing and then everyone does the thing, I'm like, God damn it, I'm not doing that thing anymore. And that's that sacred rebel, right? That I recognize with the first wavers, where I have always, and not out of disrespect or just trying to be a dick. I have always asked questions because I love to learn, like why and why and why. Like I remember my mum had this fridge magnet because I'm the mummy, that's why. You know, and so this has always been my striving for wanting to learn more. And I think when I reflect back, I've always been a natural at living in the present moment. I have rebelled norms. You know, I grew up as one of the boys. I'd much happily be anywhere with tools and motors than lipstick and all the rest, dresses. Like I never wore anything pink until I was in my mid-20s. I was like, get the heck out of here. So it's interesting too, relating to the fact that I have not had children. I mean, my, you know, I never, from a very young age, ever had the, aspirations to have the white wedding dress and get married and have the picket fence and next come the baby's carriage. Like it was just never going to be my jazz. And I have, you know, right through school, I went to school to find out where the parties were catch up with my mates and to play soccer because I loved sports. It was never because I was going off to university. And then all of a sudden I found myself, gosh, I'm 16 years old, I'm leaving 7th form, and what am I going to do in this world? Like, I know I love people and I've just got such a service soul. And so I went into hospitality management. And yeah, that was just the only thing that I could sort of find that was to do with people. And it was interesting recently, actually, having that reflected back when I was doing a sacred ceremony at Tao Temple. The woman there, she said, you know, the reason why you don't have you have chosen not to have children in this life is because you don't have those karmic ties that you need to really unravel and alchemize. It's more that I have, like Mandy described, come here to be able to support humanity as a whole into that remembrance. You know, I really resonate with the remembrance. It's not about, you know, I've always felt really grounded. I fucking love Mother Earth. Like, how incredibly, intricately magical is this planet? And so I've been like, yes, you know, like there's so much out there, and yes, we've got this galactic heritage, but this is the one ride we get to be here. So let's be here and love it. And then we'll beam me up, Scotty, in a hot minute. Like, blink and we'll miss it. So just be here. And, you know, and I feel like I've been, you know, like we were all probably born awake. It was just that we were very much conditioned and programmed. You know, I, again, similarly, I didn't have the capital T trauma to go through as a child. I chose like the most beautiful and loving mother and father with beautiful grandparents that were there, you know, for a long time in my life. I've still got my 94-year-old grandma. And so I have felt like I've lived kind of a sheltered life, but I've had so much experience because I'm always asking that why and always opening that door, that I have a little bit of experience that I can offer to it, you know, and relate to being able to see people. And so I've also been awake to the shit fuckery that is our fundamentally broken society for many, many years. You know, I look back at my Facebook memories and it's all like, oh, geoengineering this and oh, vaccines that. And, you know, like the difference is the talking and the walking, you know, and I talked a lot of talk and I wanted to tell everyone all the things because, you know, I'm going to question everything. I'm going to find the real answers. I'm going to find the darkness. I've had a few experiences through my life where that was, there were some monster rabbit holes to hop into. And lucky someone was holding my ankles because I've, managed to escape back out of them regularly. But gosh, the awareness of the stories, that was spoken, everything's just a story and we get to choose, and moving from that victimhood and life is happening to me, and then really embodying the life is actually happening for me and I can co-create it. And so linking in with that, I'm super passionate about word alchemy, linking in with Melly and sitting with ourselves in stillness and remembering that we are nature. And so I like to call it inner gardening. So sitting with myself, and I've done this for many years now, and I'm really passionate about inviting people into their own inner gardening. And I believe that's that second waver embodied experience where we are the architects of our inner frequency. I often say the only way out of this is in. and so, yeah, I feel reasonably complete with this. I could get really passionate about word alchemy and inner gardening and just anchoring the love and being passionate about raising the frequencies of all bodies of the waters, specifically our bodies. I just love that the more I lean into my true expression and my joy and my soul path, that I get to dance this path with incredible, I've got truth bumps, beings like each of the ones that are smiling back at me on the screen. Yes, I just love it. So thank you.
Beautiful, Mel. And Melissa, thank you so much. Sorry, my cat's disrupting me. I'm sorry, he's distracting. Just got his foot stuck in the cat door. All right, so and in the background just as well as on mute. All right. Rob, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind sharing.
For sure. I'm checking the audio. I'm in visiting Christchurch for a couple of days and I've got a bit of a suspect lights here, so I look a bit dodgy. I mean, dodgier than I normally look. But really interesting discussions. Coming back to a key point was 4 years ago, we had a retreat at Stargate, a first ever retreat at this land, which is a powerful energy portal. And I was activated to the Star Council. And while I've been channeling for years, all of a sudden had this new channel to the Star Council, which overlook all the planets. And I suddenly, having had years of self-doubt and varying stages, slightly bipolar, I go through this feeling I've got the answers, and then I open up a new layer of onion, and then feeling like I've got the answers, then so I've had this bipolar. But this was so pivotal because all of a sudden I had this connection to source that I didn't have before. And it's been about stopping trying and just being and surrendering and just letting go and knowing that the answers are there and I have this source. And so it's the journey about then really took a massive impact when I looked at the stars and just feeling like I'm going home. And so grounding, going out at night and looking at the stars is like, yes, I'm connecting with my birth from another planet. And that was a pivotal time. But fast forwarding, the biggest shift has been the year of the fire horse, because I've been for 15 years doing workshops on emotional fitness and moving from head to heart because of all the self-doubt and childhood abuse and so forth, and had a lot of anger and hiding in the head, and like many people that use positive thinking to be safe and not feel emotions. And the big thing was this year, because I've been very much into flow and I teach the principles of flow to athletes and business leaders, then it was stepping into the masculine this year and really feeling, and it's about embodying, and there's talk of the lower chakras earlier on, and that's stepping into the power. And the interesting thing around that is having a hip replacement 5 weeks ago, which was about not stepping forward. I created a hip that wore out. I mean, there's a few factors, but by not stepping forward and empower and being shy and not really owning who I am. So there's been letting go of a lot of energy around hips and whole power and identity, and over this year, and as a result, then with that constant journey of letting go, that's been a long time, but just knowing they've got the answers and surrendering whenever I want to, just tune in and know what the higher good is, has led to some phenomenal synchronicity just recently, and particularly in the last month. Because as the intensity of the energy that a lot of us are feeling is occurring, then all the shadows are coming up for so many people. There's the 3D people that are just don't know what's happening and are fighting and all the stuff that's going on. And then there's the people that are doing the work that are really have the tools. And so that's sort of a bit of a overview of where I'm at, Mandy.
Yeah, beautiful. And you mentioned this year, the fire horse, and for me, it's the 10, and definitely with the firepower behind it, the horse being power. And there's just this, I feel like we've all stepped into in this frequency this time at this moment is where it's just this beautiful flow, and it has the ignition now. It's like we've been leading ourselves into this, and now we're getting the ignition, and it's like we're now in takeoff. That's what it feels.
As long as we're not
Really,
attached,
really
one of the
lift
fundamental
on.
things
Yeah.
is those that are attached are cut off.
Yes.
Emotionally, spiritually, because they're attached to an outcome. But as we surrender and just let go and feel, and know we don't have to be anything, do anything apart from listen. And that's the empowerment of knowing that's when the magic happens, the synchronicity and the good luck, because we're just letting Source provide, and we're getting the hell out of the way, which is so good.
And Source said to me, imagine yourself as a cell within the body of this, we might say the universal soul. And so in that sense, and then it was like the conversation went where if there's this belief that we came in to serve, which is what we've believed that this purpose is. We're here serving, we're holding light, we're doing whatever the thing is that we're here to do. And in that, this consciousness said to me that to switch it over, allow me to serve you. And what we do is get in our way, and we think we are the ones serving, and we have to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to get this right and that right and all the things. Whereas if we just jump in the back seat and let this consciousness, this great universal soul, just lead us. And this year for me, coming out of part 1, I couldn't even say my name for months. I couldn't say my full name at all. And everything had dropped away. And then it was slowly just be in this, new things dropping in, don't grab it. It's not anything yet, just let it be. There's still more, just let it come. And in that being and all that space, it was definitely the part 1 of me. So all the journey that I had from coming in pioneer, and like this waiting, because I was so gung-ho, and I'm like, why is everybody just taking it so slow? Like, don't they know what we're here to do? Why is nobody getting on with it? And I was like amping, and I was just getting so frustrated to the day when consciousness said to me, how arrogant are you to think you're the only energy in the universe? And it was just this slap, and it was like, right, shush, quieten down, be patient, learn patience, because but I knew from the moment I birthed in that this time we're in right now, this ignition, this goes, I call it flowing with the go, is that we are now, this is what I knew I'd come in for. So I was being really impatient, going through, knowing I had to go through all this density, all this kaka before we get to this bit. And I was just so wanting to leap into this bit. Now we're here. It's like, this is just fantastic. We're in a really, really auspicious time to just
perfect lead on, if I could add on.
What was that?
Perfect lead on to what, if I can add on that it's about letting go of time. The higher states of consciousness, there's not time, and there's that need to want something now and all this attachment. But the more we just let go and be, and this was talked about, I think, before the recording was started, about how critical technology is at the moment. There is so much change happening, and it's speeding up the change. So it's an exciting time for our light workers, because we can create and manifest with AI so quickly, and we don't have to do the mundane stuff. We just and the ability to manifest is so quick now anyway, energetically. So it means that there's a lot of jobs won't exist in a few years' time, and it's embracing that and knowing that our role as light workers is to actually deal with all the stress and anxiety that's coming up in the 3D world that is, and there's the story I love is saying that when the motor car came out, well, then people went on their horses and protest. We're not ever going to buy a car. We're going to always ride our horses. So change. AI, which camp are you in? Are you going to, we're not going to use that. Well, what are the, so I think you get the point that
it's definitely shifting.
You've got to change. We're in the fastest time of change. And those that aren't are being left behind. And anyway, I'll shut up so I can get a bit excited about some of this.
Yeah, just froze a bit there. Also, too, my understanding is hips and no hip array, Rob.
What was that?
I froze. The hips is no hip array.
What does that mean?
Well, you know, we've been in this density, working through all the trauma, the wounding. We've known more about that part of us than the joy part and the hip array. We haven't been here hip arraying. we've been in a very slow, dense, you know, working through all that density within the form. Well, and it hasn't been fun.
That's the key thing at the moment is letting go of, because anyone that's read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and knows that all our trauma is held in the body. And so it's been loads of letting go. And as I move into embodiment more, then it's just letting out. And it's daily, the technique I teach is energy surfing, where you'd actually feel into what's going on and drop under it and just let it out, the emotions. And the same happens, I've used it with physical pain when I had hip issue or I had absolute physical pain. You can drop into physical pain and go into the emotion under it and feel it and let out the trauma and blocked emotions that create the physical pain. And that's what's big at the moment, is really embodying and stepping into letting out our trauma and just being able to be free. The more we let go of that, the more free we are just to have a source, a direct channel to source. And we can get this amazing synchronicity and stuff happening by just letting go of the old and stepping into the new magic that is happening.
Absolutely, for sure. So thank you for that, Rob. Would you all like to come off mute? You've all had a turn, yes. And is there anything else that's popped up for you while we've been chatting and that you'd like to share before we sort of finish off?
Might pop in again.
Yeah.
So just noticing the arc of this conversation, you know, from the first waiver with my own story, you know, leaning into that, and then Johnny Bear and Mel, and then I think it was Jenny came in, you know, very much of gung ho, and with the children talk, and even how this arcing into Carissa, I think, was, you know, into the third wave, or the implementation, we'll say, or the building of this new earth, is what I'm getting the sense from you. And then being that presence of the second waiver, or bringing the resonance, really, that is creating the shifts and change external beyond need for words. And of course, Melissa, the gardener, reminding us that the external is the internal, and it all comes from the internal. And then Rob, that hip has transformed into hip array. I'm going gung-ho of going, I ain't holding back, this source embodied voice and speaking that. So I just wanted to really acknowledge this incredible arc through the conversation. I'm sure you've noticed it anyways, Mandy, and just gratitude and appreciation for the journey that I've been on personally, and the journey I know that all of us have been on, and the resonance of this conversation. And I'm so grateful that to be here right now, and as you said, Rob, just to be here right now and allow and let go of the old ways of needing to control and manage the energy. And as you said, Mandy, in in what I'm calling the old earth grid, we felt it was up to us, because it was our ego identities that were running, or thought they were running the show, through the belief system and the scaffolding of the belief system, and the separation between the different brainwave states of the conscious and the unconscious and so forth. And then to really shift into this awakening, into the remembering, where the inner and the outer is going to be recognized, that of course it's all us. And the more we bring ourselves into coherence and resonance, then the more the external is a reflection of our internal. And as we harmonize, reharmonize those energies of distortion, which we're all adept at here, and have been so dedicated to as our soul or oversoul, to embody now, to be able to embody and be that source coherence, and in whatever way that we resonate in the world. So grateful to be such among such beautiful company in these earth bodies on this technology. Thank you.
True. Beautiful. Thanks, Mary Jo. Absolutely beautiful. And again, thank you so much. Has anyone else got anything else they'd like to just bring in? Yeah, Johnny.
Bring myself in again, because I'm just feeling so grateful to be here. Each one of you has shown me an aspect of myself that sometimes I don't have the words for, and just knowing that there are other beautiful beings and souls that are out there doing their expression of whatever this all means, this journey that's involving. So I just wanted to honor, and each one, below all the stories, below
We've lost you, Johnny. We've lost your audio.
okay.
Yep, that's it now.
Okay, it's probably time for me to be quiet then. And just to feel, I just feel you all, and I just feel that generator energy just flowing out, and may it serve the collective humanity as we do individually. Sharing this collective voice here today has been an honor. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Johnny. All right.
Just something present
Yes.
for me, just a last little piece that's coming through, is just the remembrance for me very much recently that I think coming into wholeness within ourselves is the art of releasing judgment. And like the way I delved into it for some time, and for me, the difference between judgment and observation is that you would see somebody walking past you and maybe they're carrying a bit of extra weight, and an observation would be that, they're a larger than life person. The judgment is they should probably stop eating pies. And so that's for me the difference, where I found, okay, well, we can observe and discern for ourselves what is right or wrong, because as an individual, I really just feel important to express in anchoring this frequency of releasing judgment on ourselves and therefore on our external, and embracing the polarity and being okay to be with the dualities that we see. Recently, my partner and I spent a month in Lombok, and it was actually quite a culture shock for me to go and to see the rubbish and the poverty. And by the time we left, I was so fucking in love with the duality, and the fact that there was so much richness in the poverty and so much beauty amongst the rubbish. And so being able to allow our shadow, allow our light, and not need it to be right or wrong or good or bad, or just really being and anchoring love and witnessing it all, and I think that is such a liberating place to be.
Yeah.
So thank you for...
Can I just add
Thank you.
to that? And just say that the judgment quietens as we go into deeper layers of the heart, because the head is constantly, that's what it does, is judges, it evaluates, and then it's our emotions that lead our thoughts. So as we open up, and then what I've found, and it's the model that I teach, is that our quieting mind is a direct result of really being in the heart and deeper layers. So that's the journey, because the heart is now in the present. The head judges and evaluates.
Beautiful.
It's practice, that's for sure.
Yeah, practice letting go and
The
feeling.
journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you consider that we came in here to experience, and I've always said if there wasn't any judgment, we'd just be in experiencing. And that's the key for me. So beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time in your busy schedules. I know you're all very busy to, you know, just present in here today. And, you know, my podcasts are always, for me anyway, there was a deep desire to you know, be able to promote or to honor people that have been honor souls, people, you guys, in respect to journeys and how much has been given silently over the years. And it's just beautiful time to honor everybody in that space. So thank you so much again, and all the very, very best, and much love to you all. Mwah.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Mandy.
having
Yeah,
us,
thank
Mandy.
you, Mandy.
Thank you,
everyone else.
everybody. Thank
Thank
us.
you, everybody.
Amazingness.
See ya.
Lovely to
Finishing
see
on
you all.
111.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.